Okay. Can everyone hear me okay? Brilliant. It's great to be here kicking off the first proper presentation of this morning. I'm surprised there's so many of you. I would be down the back. This sounds like some awesome workshops. But I promise to try and keep you entertained. As Mark said, I'm very heavily involved in the Melbourne community. I love the development community here. I ran BuzzConf last weekend. It was heaps of fun. I'm also a co-organizer with the AngularJS Melbourne community with Alex Borokovich. So we're going to see a few Angular examples as I talk about accessibility in single-page applications. So I'm going to start off by setting a bit of context about accessibility. So this is a quote from Tim Berners-Lee. Timmy was the inventor of the internet. The power of the web is in its universality. Access by everyone, regardless of disability, is an essential aspect. Now, when the internet was conceived, it was responsive, it was accessible by its nature. And our thirst for ever more complex web applications has kind of broken this a little bit, and we need to remember and work a little bit harder to make sure that our applications and websites are accessible for everyone. And also the very nature of accessibility. Instead of focusing on the technical aspects of accessibility, it's important to recognize that usability is also an important aspect of accessibility. Now, this is really key as well, because this is the difference between meeting minimum accessibility requirements and actually building an application that is usable. Right? So this isn't just ticking the boxes and saying I've included an alt tag, therefore my image is accessible. This is knowing that that alt tag is descriptive and that someone can use the application or website you've built. So in the remaining 13 and a half minutes, we're going to try and cover quite a lot. Now, a lot of these topics are relevant to more than just single-page applications, but there's some key things that I want to try and bring your attention to that where we sometimes break these more than others when we're writing our applications. So accessibility starts with a good design. This is my favorite design, not because it's good, because I think it really illustrates the point. This is a collection of various grids, a mishmash of shapes and colors, images, links, and text. For most people that would describe themselves as not having any disabilities, this is not very usable. This is the website equivalent of a bowl of Cheerios. It's a Jackson Pollock without any artistic merit. It's a real mess. It's difficult to understand. But now imagine that you have some form of cognitive disability. Imagine that you're trying to use this website with a screen reader or access the parts with a keyboard. This would be impossible for most people to use, but with a disability, it really is impossible. And although this is an extreme example, anything that is overcomplicated is also going to be difficult for a lot of users. A good test is turning off your monitor and trying to use the website or the web application you've built with a screen reader and a keyboard. If you can do that, you have a usable design. You have something that is probably going to be usable for most people, and therefore it's also likely to be much closer to being accessible. When you start thinking about that, you simplify. You just show the relevant information, and that's really important for a good design. Document structure is another aspect that covers the whole of the web, not just single-page applications. But when we deal with dynamic content, it's really easy to break a document structure. We're building little modules, directives, snippets, whatever they are, and we're throwing them on a page together. They don't have any awareness of where they are, and we can put them in any order and break what is essentially a good document structure. If we start with a good document structure, it means that when we do start considering accessibility, screen reader, keyboard access, we can go a lot further than just navigating that website using the tab and arrow keys. We have the ability to navigate to navigation, to headers, to read out the number of items in a list. This is all really, really helpful for someone that can't see the structure of a page. So this is a random website from my history. It's a BuzzConf website. And it has a pretty typical structure. It's got a logo, a navigation along the top. It's got a heading, some content, a subheading. If we look at the actual markup, we can see that it's semantically described. It's easy to read. We've got a head block with a document title. Within the body, we have a header. It has a navigation tag. It's got list items inside it. We have a main block, and it has a single H1 attribute. And then below that, it has other headings and other content. Now, this is really key. So in a single-page application, we don't cause a full page refresh when we change to another part of the page. We just change the view. So let's do that. We'll change the view, and we'll go to another part of this website. So this isn't a refresh. This is just changing the view. It's the same menu. It's just different headings. It's got a different document title, and you probably can't see that, but in the tab on the top on the browser, it's got a different document title. So a screen reader should announce that change, should announce the change in the title as if we're going to a new page. And the way we can do that is pretty simple. Now, this is an Angular example using ng-route. There are lots of different examples. We have the route defined, we have the title defined, and the bit down the bottom, when the route has finished loading, we're just setting that title. And that's really important. That's really important. It gives context to people using the page. And here's a similar example in React. This is a very, very small amount of code, but it's very, very critical to help preserve that structure. Now, focus is also important. Again, across the whole of the web, but it's very easy to break focus when you have complex applications. We're changing the view, so that part of the page that might have had focus suddenly isn't there. And because we're not causing a refresh, a screen reader isn't going to start reading the content automatically. We might also lose focus when we delete an item from a form we have, or when we close a modal. So we need to start to be explicit about managing our focus. We're back to this random example. We've changed the view again, and we want people to know that the content on the page has changed. So we might set the focus to the new heading of this page. And we can do that very, very simply again. I'm going to read from the bottom here. We start down the bottom. Do I have a laser? Right, so we're starting looking at here. We are finding our H1 tag, and because our document structure is correct and valid, we only have one H1 tag. We find that. If it's there, we set an attribute of tab index to -1, which means programmatically we can set focus, but you couldn't get there by hitting the keys. And we use JavaScript to set the focus to that H1. Now, up the top, we also do a little check to make sure that we're only doing this if the application has history. That is to say, not when you first come to the page, because we'll have a full page refresh. When you first come to the application, it will automatically start reading from the top down. But when we change the view, we just want to jump to that H1 and start going from there. Our keyboard accessibility, we can't really talk about accessibility without talking about the keyboard. This is one of the most fundamental and arguably one of the easiest areas to address. But we have to be really careful with single-page applications because we can really screw this up. So I've got 4 code examples up there. We've got some React where we have a on-click attribute on a div. We've got some Ember and some Backbone where we're attaching submit or click actions to headings. And the div down the bottom right is Angular. We've given it a class of button, and we're attaching a click attribute to it. So what's wrong with all of these examples? Who's got an idea? I didn't hear that, but I'm going to say yes. We are binding interaction events to something that should not be clickable. Links and buttons are clickable, divs and headings and other random elements are not. And this is really, really important because a screen reader is not going to tell you you can click these things. This is fundamental and so important, it really makes me sick when we get this wrong. So I'm going to digress for a little moment and talk about links and buttons, because I've said that these are the clickable parts, but when do you use a link and when do you use a button? They have different properties. A link, you click with the Enter key. It has focus, hover, active, link, and visited pseudo classes. And you can open it in the new window, commonly by using a right-click. So this can be used for changing a URL or causing a browser redraw. A button, you click with the space key. it has different pseudoclasses. It has a disabled property. It will natively submit a form. So this is perfect for submitting a form, opening a modal, executing a piece of script. So when you're deciding whether to use links or buttons, consider this. If a screen reader user tabbed onto an interactive element, would its role tell them what to expect? They need to know this, because if it says this is a link, they will be hitting one key. If it's a button, they would be hitting another key. If you're suppressing features like the href, if you don't want them to open a page in a new browser window, consider using a button instead of a link. These tips came from an excellent article by Mary Sutton. I'll put up all of the links later on. There's lots more tips there. So here's a couple of examples of a link and a button. In the first example, we've got a link. We know it's a link. It's got an href. It's going to go somewhere. It also has a click attribute. That's fine. You can still execute scripts with a link. And below that, we have a button. It doesn't go anywhere. It just performs a script. In this case, it's a toggle. We've also got some hidden text in here. And it will show one or other piece of text depending on what's happening. So it will say hide details for this thing or show details for this thing depending on what's available on the screen. Here we could use ARIA expanded for those of you that know a little bit about ARIA, but I like using visually hidden text in this example because the next slide is about visually hidden text. This is really important as well. We can bring extra information to people that can't see what's going on to help give them context. And a little bit of CSS like this will allow us to do it. So on this page, we've got 3 different accommodation options for, let's say, a technology festival, BuzzConf or something. You may want to buy one of these accommodation options. And for those that are able to see, the add buttons are underneath a heading, so we can see you could add a dorm room or add a campsite. But if you were to just go between these clickable elements by pressing tab, a screen reader is going to just read out add, add, add. It's no help at all. So we need to add something in there. And a bit of hidden text like this, where we're bringing in the accommodation title into the button, will allow people to have a bit of context. So now those buttons will be heard to say add a dorm room. ARIA stands for the Accessible Rich Internet Applications. Now, this is a really, really useful collection of properties that screen readers can use to enrich the experience. And they're very important in single-page applications. ARIA Live is a property that is often abused, but very powerful when used correctly. And it will announce that a part of the page has changed. So in our top example, we've got a button. And the value of that button will either be the word search or searching, depending on whether it's clicked. And we want that change to be read out when you click that button. When I submit the button that says search, I want the screen reader to announce searching. Just a little tweak to give someone with assistive technologies a little bit of context. And we're giving it the attribute of polite, which means that a screen reader will wait until it's finished reading the current block before it announces this next bit. In the bottom, we've got, let's say, some pagination. Again, the ARIA Live of polite, and it will say showing n of x. But we've also added a property, ARIA atomic equals true, and that means it will read out the full content of this element. So if we are saying showing 1 of 3, and we go to the next page, the number 1 will change to a number 2, but we don't just want it to read out 2. That's no help. We want it to read out the whole line. So by saying this is an atomic element, it will read out showing 1 of 2, showing 2 of 2. There's lots of other ARIA attributes as well, and there's libraries that will add these in automatically for you. A couple of examples up there. So when something is dynamically hidden by your single-page application, it will add an attribute of ARIA hidden so your screen reader knows not to read it. For form validation, it will add ARIA invalid for elements that are invalid. All really, really useful stuff. Build tools is the final thing I'm going to talk about, and I've got a massive 1 minute and 10 seconds, so we're going to flip through this pretty quickly. There are a few tools out there that help our job. I'm going to go back because there's a stat here. Carl Groves, who wrote Tenon.io a fair while ago, 3 or 4 years ago, said that only 18% of the WCAG guidelines for accessibility can be tested automatically. And that number's probably still fairly accurate. We can't use build tools to do all of our job for us. Remember, this is about usability, not just about ticking boxes. But we can get it to help catch developer mistakes. And tools like Axe are great at doing that. There are protractor plugins for this. Phantom.js, if you use that, again, there's tools that you can use to plug in that will remind you of those things that you've missed. They will say that your image is missing an alt tag, or your HTML tag is missing a language attribute. They might tell you, check that this is descriptive and valid. So in conclusion, remember to start with a considered design. And code semantically, that will really help. Test early and continuously. Embrace ARIA, but try not to rely on it. Turn off your monitor and try to use your application. It's so easy to get an experience for what millions of people in Australia, and we are talking about millions who use assistive technology. If you just turn off your monitor, you'll understand what they're going through, and hopefully you'll be able to code better websites. Thank you very much. Slides will be online, and all the references as well, so I'll post them later.